Thanks for the invitation. My name is Thomas. I run a small design studio called Traum Inc. in London. I'm German originally. I kind of planned this presentation a bit badly in the sense of it being way too long. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get started. I have a timer here running for 20 minutes, and then I might just go and like skip through some stuff. But I just thought, like, me being like doing this for a while, I sort of catch up a little bit on the history and then talk about current projects. So my goal in this presentation is to get to the current projects through all this massive amount of past work I have. So yeah, the company is Traum Inc. Possible job titles. I've done a lot of different stuff, and it's hard to get your head around it sometimes. So I mostly work day to day, really creative director and intern in my own company. But we have staff, and we have we work a lot with freelancers. I'm a director as in live action, as I've done a lot of 3D CG. I design, and I also write quite a bit of code. So this is the model of our company, which is super old, but keeps being relevant because we are in this big technology change. And it's been a great motto to have because it always it's still what I'm doing today after all these years. Here is just a few clips from our work, just a quick intro. Okay, so let's just see a new image for a new world. We can quickly reset here. Just a few little clip of work, past work we've done. So I should remove Is the sound okay, or is it really loud? Probably should move this out as well. Okay, cool. Yes, I think this has sort of been like something I learned over the years, that in school, for example, there's no ceiling to what, there's a sort of an upper ceiling what you can achieve. Like getting grades, like an A is sort of what you know, but what you need to understand that in life, there's really no limits of what you can do. And that's sort of what I try to do in my work, in a sense of me being always pushing my own work further. I really like this quote by Jason Fried, and that's sort of the currency I judge our work in the studio is renders. It's like only what you ship. So if we do a rendering project, it's like you've got a render or you don't have a render. If you don't have a render, you better get one. And it's sort of like this really based on productivity. And I love this image here, like how to draw an owl, draw some circles, and then draw the rest of the owl. And I think that's kind of like the essence of everything you have to do, is you just have to make it, and then it'll happen. And on the way, you're going to cross that bridge when you get there. And so we started quite early in 2009. I think that's when I incorporated, actually. I've been working as a designer already before. I'm from the Black Forest in Germany. I studied at an art school called ICA when it was just about to get sort of more popular. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Pierre Keller, the old director of the art school, who died last year, who I owe a lot in my career too, because when I arrived from Germany, I had a really bad portfolio, and he gave me an appointment. There was no one there to see my work, and he put me in a hotel on this cost of the school and said, you can stay in the hotel and I get someone tomorrow to see your work. And my work was terrible. And ever since I joined ECAL, my work was a lot better, and I learned a lot there. So I always made sure I came back to it over the years, and I did a few talks and taught there as well, which I'm proud of. I originally started with web stuff. That's sort of where I started to learn programming. And it's funny because all this stuff is completely forgotten and it doesn't actually exist anymore. So I just can't get away of this. I started working at Thomas Traum, and I started making my own website where I push content live. So this is more than 10 years ago. And that's how I get it started in 3D. And first, sort of my trajectory was I just made still images. The name Thomas Traum is actually a pseudonym, and Traum means dream in German. And so I created always these alternate worlds, alternate images, and I was just interested in making images. And sort of that was my principle. I always, after each day at work, I would come home and do more stuff and create content and find friends online would do similar practices. One strong current in my work is loops. Ever since I saw the amazing film American Beauty. And I started making loops myself and put them out on subdomains of my website. There's sort of fragments of ideas. And then eventually clients hired me to do like CG work for them. This was something I did for Uniqlo, just exploration of materials. This is another one I did for Uniqlo. This one I did for Sense. It's sort of like you see the progression of like still images to moving innovation of the software really, and getting better and better. And sound always plays a very important role in my work. This is also when I started working in the fashion industry mostly because they sort of had a keen eye for images and wanted to move image making forward. Just gonna skip here. I revisit this lately with the loops, and I made these loops for Black Lives Matter to post something on my Instagram. This like crazy footage from Twitter of like people getting beaten up.
All right, yo, thank you for supporting us. We gotta continue supporting each other. That's how we start.
So I really love this about 3D, how you can just make something really quickly and then create images. This is sort of like, I just wanted to highlight this film real quick. We have done a while ago. For Christopher Rayburn, I used to work with him a lot back in the day. And it was sort of for me a step forward in terms of CG animation, doing full-blown CG animation with a bit of a story to it. And it was about this, he recycles a lot of materials, and this was about this plane yard in Arizona. So we started the CG film there, and then we developed this character. You can see the 3D is kind of really old and sort of gamey. That was sort of also a look I liked at that time. I also couldn't do any better than that. So it was a nice sacrifice. This is also when I started to work with more people and other freelancers. haven't watched this film in a while, but for me, it was a real like step forward in terms of like, the first time we used Marvelous Designer to model the clothes properly. And we did this massive setup. And then like at any time, this project was like at a breaking point, and it got really heavy and really technical. And that's sort of what I mean with like, you always have to push yourself into an unknown you don't know yet. And as I was making more and more CG animation work I established a long-term relationship with a lot of clients like Kenzo over the years. And eventually they gave me the opportunity to direct. And I had no idea about film really, and I didn't know what directing is really, or I didn't even know the terminology. I'd never been on set. So it was super scary, but I thought just creatively, I thought it would be really interesting to learn how to integrate CG and live action, and to play with people and integrate sort of models into my work. And I always struggled sort of on shoot days. I was like extremely nervous, and I was really struggling with, was kind of fearful really. And I started reading it's a time in my life where I started reading a lot more and sort of like working more on my mentality. And this is a good book. I really enjoy it, and I would highly recommend if you face like the same sort of struggles, because it kind of makes you, the obstacle becomes the way. Like the obstacle is as soon as something painful, it tells you that you're making progress, and it sort of allows you to really move your work forward. I've done a few of these live action clips in the past, but I wanted to highlight this one for a running brand called On. And it's pit sort of two runners against each other, which was the same person. And we shot it in Iceland because they wanted to have this black and white feeling. And had a really limited budget, and then I had to let go of the producer. So I ended up having to produce the whole shoot myself. And it was like this sort of crazy thing I've never done. And I had to organize the crew. I had to book the flights and do all of this. And if you run the company and you have to produce and you're the director, it's kind of like a really crazy environment. Because any money you spend is taking away from your profit, and then it impacts the creative. It was really an amazing experience, though, in the past. And now, if I look back on it, I can't even. I sort of can't believe I actually did this. There's some images from the shoot. And then what really helped me in my career is sort of being good at 3D, so I could always mock up shots really quickly. So this was an animatic I made. I won't show the whole film actually, because I just want to move forward. And I feel like it's more important that I give you more experience information, and you can always check out the work on the website. Just a bit of history for this as well. Was quite funny. Like, this guy is a local lad from London, and he's never been in the snow. And he was a really good athlete, but he got so cold he didn't want to go out of the car anymore. And I had to persuade him, because we only shot half the thing. He was like, "I'm not coming out anymore. It's too cold." So it was quite an interesting experience. And obviously, you never see all that on film, because on film it just ends up looking good. Again, like, as in my journey of sort of self-improvement, I also I listen to a lot of podcasts from really big directors, and I highly recommend everyone, they should do the same, because you just learn so much, and you sort of reset your mind about like that it's normal that everything doesn't work. That's your status quo on a shoot. Then this was sort of the biggest project I've done so far in terms of directing, like big cast, stars in the US, etc. And obviously there's a whole big team involved. So, when I say I got the director credit, but there's a massive team involved in making something like this. And it was really fun. Just these Mabel and Odell Beckham, they're like big stars. And when you shot in the street, you had to lock down the whole street, and then there was people screaming everywhere, and we had like 10 minutes for a couple of shots. It was quite the experience. So few pictures from the set. Like this crazy equipment shooting in downtown. Come in the morning, there's like trucks of equipment to shoot. So this, I just show bits of it. It's also the first time I worked with like external VFX studios. We did all the cars and sort of more proper film production. Yeah, and that's kind of what I think is a really important rule to have in your life, even if you're junior. Like people always go, oh, my computer doesn't work. It doesn't work for whatever reason. But if it doesn't work, you just need to have a contingency plan and be ready and do something else, find an alternative route to make it work. I think I'm going to skip over this project real quick, but it's interesting because it speaks about alternative characters and creating digital personas. So we created this digital persona for Kenzo. It was our very last Kenzo project, which was kind of cool. And Lily McKilla was a big inspiration. Just got me love me a lot. And yeah, it's just sort of cool stuff as we've been testing. So again, like character animation is sort of a holy grail in 3D, and it's, you need like a Pixar kind of dude. But through technology, it becomes a lot easier to make this. And even someone who is not skilled like myself in character animation, we can start building something. Obviously, with the help of other people. There's other people involved in this as well. It's not just me doing this; it's the whole team. It was really fun exploring this, even though we didn't use so much in the film. Some more test renders. So we really did the whole thing. There's first time characters, models, clothing, and then eventually you got shots like this for promotion of the film. And I was really happy with this because it feels like something you shot, and it still has this sort of 3D CGI aesthetic. Yet a lot of late nights, 6 a.m. in the morning, rendering the whole night. You can check out the film on the website. I see I only got like 2 minutes left, so I just show you a few shots and then. So it looks still really ghetto. It looks still really bad in a way, but it was really fun. Like this is how you learn, and then you kind of work with the aesthetic. And just jumping ahead like this, eventually Lily McKilla actually wore the collection on an Instagram post. It was kind of funny because she was kind of an inspiration. And this is just a book I wanted to highlight. I highly recommend reading if you want to learn about story and film. It's an unbelievable book. I learned so much. I just some sample quotes on the left, which is actually even like all stories are means by which society explain themselves to themselves. This is Twitter in a nutshell. Like, which story do you believe? Which narrative do you believe? And it goes way beyond filmmaking if you read it, and makes you understand how we humans are just machines for story, really. And this is sort of the latest of this iteration of creating digital characters. It's a character Ali we created or are creating right now for a brand in Paris, a new brand which launches from scratch called Statement. And again, I was trying to push it even further, and we did a lot of research into ethnicity and creating a character, which is sort of like kind of scary, but also super interesting subject. And we realized we could actually morph between ethnicities, which is kind of insane. And so obviously this has all kinds of connotations nowadays, especially with what's going on in the world right now. But it's a really interesting subject to explore creatively. So all these different tests we made. Then we had this idea of a second skin out of metal, which I thought was creatively really interesting. And then we created this armor. And this is some sort of first test. So after we build the character, you have to build the world, you have to build everything. It's crazy. It's just such a learning curve, this project, and just trying to define the feeling of this world. It's a sort of all work in progress. We haven't released much yet. And then we looked into iPhone-powered facial animation, which is super fun. I'll show you some.
Now look down.
So this is just...
Look left. Now look down.
So sort of did this fake test videos of a digital character who is controlled by myself.
Left. Now look down. Look up, please.
And all the face is driven by an iPhone, and it's like so convincing.
Say why.
Why?
Or simple reactions to movement.
Why?
So again, I couldn't ever animate this myself. I just, or anyone in the team really, we don't have that sort of skill, but we can do it via technology.
Why?
And now we have these really amazing setups. Try to make
all I new flames and nigga them blue. 350,000 that but two new down no roof. I still see the skies. These are my grandma, I still see my guys.
Could literally lip sync.
Traum Inc.
And then that's like left to right, sort of what happens if you animate with the iPhone. So you literally can act into your iPhone, which is super amazing. You just sit there, you have to do the breathing, you get in rhythm with her breathing from the motion capture. And then she does what you do, not in real time, but you have to record it, translate it. It's just super cool. I'm super excited about this. That's a quick teaser of the actual film. Yeah, it's going to come out in October. I'm seeing I'm already over time, so maybe Moby Dick, can I go a bit longer or should I stop?
Sure, I think you can go a bit longer, and then we have a shorter break. Fine.
As you wish.
Yep.
I just want to, I think quickly something which is important to me is just image culture. And I jump real quick through. This is a website I'm building right now, anything.io, and it's going to be a web service to collect images. And I'm obviously obsessed with images and collecting images and having great images. So I made this website which does it automatically for me. I'm tired of like bookmarking images and adding them to an index. It's also become something about ego, sort of like me and my collection. Whereas what I needed, I just need a super hardcore tool which tags images and allows me to brief artists. So I made this tool which essentially uses Bookmark's website and rips all the images, be it Instagram, be it blogs, be it, for example, Arena, which a lot of designers, I guess, using. And then you can subscribe to these sources and then rip these images. And this is a little bot I wrote which posts on images on Instagram. Yeah. So it does all this automatically from anything. So I'm using anything to make new works, anything.io is that image website. And then I also make these sort of generative landscapes. So I search the database by landscape fog, no person on anything.io, download all the images, I feed them into a style gun, and then I can create other new landscapes. And this is very easy to make. I just, for me, a little playful test at home. And I find these images actually extremely powerful. Yeah, and I think maybe there's a good way to stop. And I think you can learn anything really if you put your mind to it. You might never be really good at it, but it's good enough to as creative expression. As a creative, you don't need to be the best. You can then work with other people, but as a creative expression to get something learning, you can learn anything really, be it code, directing, or CG. Okay, cool. I think that's probably a good point to stop.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Thomas. It was really, really a really cool talk, and thank you for the insights. We also have some questions for you, of course. We have some from also from the Q&A. So maybe you can tell us a bit about them. So you're mentioning a lot of projects where you haven't done before, like firsts. So how do you prepare for those projects? So how do you prepare for the unknown?
Yeah, I think you can't. I mean, there's two things. For example, you can ask. One thing I learned really late in my life, you can actually approach people and just ask them to do what they're doing, and they're really willing sharing information with you. Because I've always been quite a shy guy, and learning that really helped me. So, for example, for programming, I just reached out to people and have them as mentors. And then books, you can literally, like the book about directing will teach you so much about stories. Podcasts, you just have to learn all the time. And then you kind of have to just fake it. You'll never, unless you do it, you will never know. So I showed up on set not having any idea what I got confused what a second AC is. You just have to fake it sometimes.
Cool. Okay, nice. So Sebastian wants to know, Sebastian Flores, how did you balance the learning of different tools that take you a long time to master, such as 3D and coding? How do you balance that out?
Yeah. So you can get over your career. You're going to get really, really good at this. So basically I can pick up a tool so much quicker now because I learned how to learn. So I'm not afraid to read the manual, to learn the basics, how something works. And then you can actually make progress really, really fast. And you then have to I just going to use it on a project. You just have to jump over this hurdle and then just say, I'm just going to use it and see what happens. And then you're just going to work a lot and it's going to go wrong. But you're going to be better after.
Yeah, but I think that's a cool process. I mean, also there's another question from Dan van der Zwaag. He asks, you stated in the beginning something like, if it goes wrong, blame yourself. But he asked, when do you think a project is a success for you?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. Mm-hmm. I think actually it's easy if you're actually happy about it at the end and you feel slightly proud about it. So after project finish, it's really hard. But then later on, you kind of can really appreciate it. Obviously at that point, you shouldn't blame yourself for any errors anymore. It's only in production. While you're in production, you got to make sure you're prepared. But when you finish a project, you need to be happy for sure. Then you need to let go.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, in a way, it's a feeling then in the end, you would say, but also that, I mean, if you really have in mind that you never stop learning in a way, then it's also the process which maybe then is more interesting than the final.
Yes, yeah, especially if you fail, right? I've done when I first started directing a little bit and some terrible film. And that's actually what enables you to make the next one good. If not, you won't be able to make the next one, which is better.
Or it pushes you to kind of connect with other people who can help you out and something like that. So.
Yes, for sure. Totally, yeah.
There was another question about digital avatars, which is a bit longer. I will condense it a little bit. But the question was, in the digital, we can shape and extend ourselves in any way imaginable. You are doing this in your own work, creating avatars to mimic our physicality or curating our feeds in ways that were impossible before. Are we still in control of our digital identities when we communicate via platforms and apps that filter and shape our ways of self-expression?
I think this question is sort of super interesting, obviously, and you could talk about it for a long time. I think you have to disconnect. So when I do it as a creative exploration of these characters. In my own personal life, I'm actually all about disconnecting, which is kind of weird, but I'm all about authenticity and disconnecting, and that allows you to do new creative work. But I find the idea of avatar and virtual worlds super interesting creatively. But I think you need to learn as an individual. you need to disconnect from these worlds, and you need to learn how to deal with them actually. And I've done a lot of work on this myself in terms of how you analyze information, how you deal with incoming, like from your Instagram or from other online sources, how you deal with these, because they're all like trained to make you feel something.
When you say like disconnecting, do you mean then also to kind of stop at a certain point and maybe give yourself the freedom to reflect and I don't know, focus on something completely else?
Yes, yeah, totally. I mean, I'm doing sport every day. I walk a lot. I'm actually anti-online in a way. Funny enough, like I'm like I think like there's actually something which I have later in a slide, that everything old is better because it's more robust. Over the years, only the good things will be the ones which will be remembered. So if you go 10 years and back, whatever is from that period is actually better probably than what you can see right now. So you need to disconnect from everything new. And I think you need to look in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, and also to kind of find your own way. I think sometimes it can be quite confusing to get all this inputs and then of getting lost in it as well.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Especially in design, because design, you can see something and then it's in your head, and you adopt things so quickly when you don't reflect on them. Whereas if you maybe are a programmer or something, you actually can't assimilate new images, etc., as quickly.
Yeah,
that is really interesting in design. I find it's particularly dangerous.
Maybe a good addition to that one is another question, which is like, in what way should we reflect upon and question the tools we use, and they shape the digital. So do you have criteria for your reflection?
Yeah, I think you should make your tools so you're in control. I think that's also why I showed this really old work where we used to do our website. There was no Twitter, there was no Instagram. Instagram will die and all your work will be lost. You need to have your own way of making things and frame your own tool, because if you generate work over 10, 15 years, technology will move on and your old work will be forgotten. So it's very important that you are in control of your tools and you document your work yourself, as well as you're in control of making them, because also software is disappearing.
Yeah, cool. I think that's a really good sentence or sentences to wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time and tuning in. It was really interesting to hear your thoughts and see about your projects. And I think
thanks so much, guys.